Nicole for Lawn Fawn, and today I have a card featuring Thanksgiving themed stamped and colored images to create this Happy Turkey Day card. To start, I am going to stamp several images from many different Lawn Fawn stamp sets. I'm going to start with the cheese slices and the mice from the Thankful Mice stamp set. I'm going to use both of the pilgrim mice there, and I stamped 3 slices of the cheese. I'm actually only going to use 2 of them. One of them didn't stamp very well. The turkey is from the Turkey Day stamp set that now has a coordinating die to go with that, so that's awesome. The pumpkins are from the Happy Harvest stamp set. I'm going to use a couple of the small ones and the large one. The pilgrim hat is perfectly sized to fit on top of the turkey, and it's from the Holiday Party Animals stamp set, which has a whole bunch of great little images that would coordinate not only with the critter in that stamp set, but other stamp sets like I'm using here today. I'm going to start by coloring in my pumpkin. The colors I'm using to color in the images are going to be shown across the bottom of the screen here. I'm using Copic markers. You could use any sort of markers or coloring mediums that you like to color in these images. I like to use these yellow-red colors for my pumpkins. These are some of my most favorite colors. I did incorporate a little bit lighter color this time, the YR21, that I don't normally incorporate, but I wanted each of those little sections of the pumpkin to have kind of a more shiny or lighter spot to it. And then I just kept going over it until I got that shading kind of the way I wanted it to look. Next, I am going to color in the body of the turkey with E55, 57, and 59. E55 is going to be my base color here, and then I'm going to go in with a little E57 first and add just a tiny bit of shading here and there, and then blend it out with the E55. I like to gradually build up that color. Here's the E59, and that's going to be my even darker color, so I'm going to really just add that just a tiny bit of that here and there, and then go over it with E57 to blend that dark color out, and then blend it even more with E55. Little more blending with E57 and then E55 to pull that color out. And then I'm going to use some little small dots. I'm going to start with the E59 in the darker areas and gradually move out to E57 to give some texture to my turkey. The beak is YR04 and YR27, and then I'll finish with R24, 29, and 39. For the turkey feathers, I'm going to gradually go from red to orange to yellow on each of the feathers, and I'm using R24 and R29 for the red areas, YR04 for the orange areas, and then Y21 for the yellow. So I basically started by coloring in the red area, then the orange, kind of trying to pull a little of that red into the orange to blend as I go, and then the Y21 to blend up into the orange. Now, I didn't think the red blended out quite as much, so I did go back in with R24 and pull that down a little further, and then go back with YR04 to blend it even more. For the cheese slices, I'm using Y21, YR23, and YR24. Many of the colors I'm using here, I'm mixing and matching what I already have on my table instead of going and grabbing additional colors. So I've already used some of those YR colors for the pumpkins, and some of the lighter colors, as well as the Y21 I used for the turkey feathers, work for the cheese slices really well. Go ahead and color those in. I'm going to skip to the mice now, which are going to all be in shades of warm gray. Definitely going very, very light, and then I'll gradually get darker. A little R00 for the cheeks, which is a very, very light pink. I'm going to use that for the insides of the ears as well. and gradually work my way up. I had intended to keep the mice very, very light, so I didn't go with my warm gray 4 until almost near the end to add some additional shading. I didn't want the mice the color of them to get too dark. So I'm just going to keep blending out each additional warm gray color until I get the intensity and shading just so. Darker around the mice hands and feet and underneath the hats and ears and things. There's my darkest color. Just a tiny little bit here and there. And if I need to blend any out with a lighter color, I can do so. Go ahead and finish these 2 small pumpkins using YR23, 24, and 27. And then for the stems on all of the pumpkin, I'll use E57. Again, just getting some of that darker shading around the stamp lines on the pumpkins themselves with my YR27. And I did pull in a little E59 for the pumpkin stems as well. The hats are all going to be warm gray 7 and 8 with a little Y21 for the buckles and then a little warm gray 1 for the band on the hats. I wanted them to keep pretty well white, but just have a touch of color so they weren't too stark white. And then the bonnet on the pilgrim is Y21 and YR23. Very simple coloring here. Once all my images are colored in, I'm going to take the coordinating dies, tape them in place over each of the images so that I can die cut as many of these images with one pass of the Big Shot as possible, and then run these through the die cutting machine. I will have to run it through one additional time to die cut the second piece of cheese and the second small pumpkin. I'll pop out all of these images, and then I am going to ink smoosh a background using some distress ink on a die cut rectangle. Using some distress inks, I have already smooshed in some of the fossilized amber in the center. I'm going to press it on my craft sheet, spritz it with water just once or twice, pick up that ink with a scrap piece of acetate, and then smoosh it onto that watercolor background. Now, I think right here it's really hard to see the difference between the fossilized amber and spiced marmalade, which is what I added to the left. But once it's dry, it gives a little bit more of a difference. This is the Gathered Twigs Distress ink over on the right side. And I'm going to let that dry a little bit and then spritz it with some drops of water from a mini mister. And anywhere that those drops have hit on the distress ink background, it's going to slightly lighten or make that ink wick away from those areas. So I'm going to let it sit for maybe 30 to 60 seconds and then take a just cloth here and pick up that ink so you can see those lighter areas. And then I'm going to set that aside to completely air dry. From the Turkey Day stamp set, there is a greeting that says Happy Turkey Day, but it's kind of one word stacked on top of another, so it's a vertical type greeting. And I want a horizontal greeting for this card, so I cut each word apart, and then I laid them out on my desktop. And then I'm going to pick them all up with my ink block and stamp them with the Lawn Fawn Black Licorice ink right there along the top of my stitched rectangle stamped or ink smooshed panel. I've also die cut a rectangle using the scalloped rectangle dies from Lawn Fawn. That's from some black cardstock to really frame up my Happy Turkey Day scene. And using a combination of bling and small and medium Zotz glue dots, I am going to attach all of my images to create this sweet little Thanksgiving scene. So first I'm going to attach that cheese slice and then place this cute pilgrim mouse standing on top of this cheese slice. And then I'm going to manipulate the turkey so that those feathers kind of, some are behind and some are in front of this mouse. So I'm going to grab some bigger glue dots here, some medium-sized one for this larger image, and then pop the turkey there in place, and then I'll continue building out each of the images from here. So I have the pumpkins, the other pilgrim, and another slice of cheese. Once those are all where I want them to go, I'm going to go ahead and add a few additional details with a black gel pen. I will add detail to the eyes and nose on the mice. I'm going to take the Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen to the buckles on the hats and the bonnet on the pilgrim. And then a white gel pen to add some dot detail to the cheeks on each of the mice. Then I will attach this panel to the stitched, or the rather scallop rectangle, and then add a scattering of pretty pink posh gold sequins in both 4mm and 6mm size to add a little sparkle and shine. Attach the whole thing to this white card base, and that is going to be it for this great Thanksgiving themed card. Thanks for watching this video showcasing Lawn Fawn stamps and dies for a Thanksgiving themed card. Please check out the Lawn Fawn blog for more information on this card, plus the supplies used to create it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.